I don't even know where to begin with the autobiography of Malcolm X. It's one of the greatest pieces of literature I've ever read, and there's no way someone like me will ever be able to do it justice in a review, so I would just say go out there and get a copy and read it. It is truly incredible. Whether you are a black man looking for inspiration, a Muslim, an African American, an ex-con, a white person, it doesn't matter at all. Even if you are simply looking for an entertaining read on your lunch break, pick up a copy of the autobiography. There's so much wisdom in the book, so many ideas, many controversial and revolutionary, so many little great stories and anecdotes. I honestly found it very difficult to put it away any time I began reading a chapter. I read the first half or so during a 7-hour flight in which I didn't sleep because I was so engrossed into it, and bits and pieces here and there of the rest when I was able to. I went into it knowing almost nothing about the man. I knew he was seen as a major player in the progressive movement of black people in America and was a figurehead in the Muslim world. But my knowledge really was made up of just internet quotes associated with the man. Journalist Alex Haley was the man who Malcolm told his story to, and it is written with such sophistication, but in a way also that an average person would speak, with idioms and dialects and an eloquence that makes it really seem like you are in a cafe with Malcolm pacing up and down telling his story, with Haley sitting beside you taking notes and you just being grateful for even being there, for being privileged to be given an insight into the incredible mind of X, whom, after finishing the autobiography and doing further research on his life, became a real hero and role model for me. The version that I had was one of Penguin Modern Classics, and it starts off with an introduction by Paul Gilroy, which I feel is essential, especially for newcomers to Malcolm X, who would eventually change his name to El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz. One of the most important things the introduction did for me was to make a point of the fact that Malcolm X was always changing, always evolving, and the book itself reflects this. The Malcolm who is telling you his story at the start of the book is not the same one as the one at the end, and it's important to bear this in mind when reading, as Malcolm made the decision, even after huge events in his life which drastically changed his views, not to rewrite portions of the autobiography. The autobiography is truly comprehensive. It really does cover everything from A to Z, starting even before Malcolm's birth, describing the life of his father. Malcolm's youth is discussed in great detail, as is his life in the ghetto where he kept his head above the water as a small-time deadbeat drug dealer until his luck finally ran out and it sent him to prison. Incredibly, this low-life degenerate educated himself to an incredible level by simply reading books, initially out of boredom, until he gained a hatred for the white man after looking at the plights of them throughout history and gained a desire to fight for the black man, which was propelled and channeled when his brother visited him and introduced him to something called the Nation of Islam, dubbed the religion for the black man. When he got out of prison, he joined the nation and became a minister for their leader, Elijah Muhammad, who claimed he was a messenger of God and that white people were the devils, among other things, and Malcolm rose and rose until he became the face of the nation, very famously being called the angriest black man in America. His quick-wittedness and adeptness at debates gave a voice to black people in America and Africa until jealously flooded the Nation of Islam right from the very top of the food chain, leaving him thrown out of the nation with most of his closest people abandoning him. He then took the Islamic pilgrimage of Hajj in Arabia, and it was here that he had his great epiphany where he discovered the true Islam, the one that propagates equality and harmony, and returned to America a changed man with vastly different outlooks on life, naming Islam as the only true solution to America's race problem. Shortly after this he was coincidentally assassinated, and it's thought that it was carried out by members of the Nation of Islam with a massive helping hand from the CIA. The book is an incredible story, a magnificent fairy tale-like journey that is elevated into something grand in the final few chapters from where Malcolm travels to Mecca. It's here where this cocky idealist who seemingly knew everything about everything learned that he knew nothing about anything, and humbled himself in doing so. For sure, the state in which Malcolm was in when he died was the very best Malcolm X to exist. Though the main selling point of the autobiography in terms of the story is his movements as a human rights activist, you gain a great deal of entertainment and knowledge about a huge number of unconnected topics, like some terrific tips on how to rob a house, or how to avoid having your house robbed, which are even relevant today, decades later. The messages and philosophical output of Malcolm are incredibly profound, and often having you close the book momentarily and ponder and reflect on the passage you've just read to properly digest them. In so many places, Malcolm was completely right in his output and thought, and eerily his voice carries even more significance today than it ever has done before, with many things Malcolm predicting would happen actually happening. What you can't ever attack Malcolm with is a claim that his intention was corrupted. From the very beginning, you always get the sense that he was looking to do what was best for the black man, explore every possible avenue so that the black people would gain equal rights. Power and fame were never his goals, which probably can't be said for Elijah Muhammad. Elijah may have generally wanted to give black people a greater platform in America, and he definitely succeeded in doing so, but there's no beating around the bush that he was a false prophet, a pretender. He took the name of Islam and preached something completely the opposite of it, unifying many people but unifying them under falsehood. And you have thousands and thousands of people thinking this is Islam when Islam has nothing to do with the message of Elijah Muhammad. There's a very interesting segment in the autobiography where Malcolm angers orthodox Sunni Muslims when he relates Elijah Muhammad's teachings, where among other things he claims the original man was black and white people were a heinous creation by an evil man looking to cause trouble. Though they were angry at how this fake version of Islam was being practiced in the West, Malcolm reminded them that it was actually their fault, since despite being scholars of their faith who had the means, they failed to spread the true meaning of Islam far wide enough so that it reached people in America, leaving a vacuum for pretenders and deviants to use the religion for their own political gain. This is especially true today with a lack of an Islamic caliphate after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, leaving a space for many factions left, right and centre to try and claim Islam for their own agendas. Today we have corrupted sects like the Wahhabis and the pseudo-Salafis and groups like ISIS wreaking havoc. A lack of global movement or voice from the likes of the Saud makeup, who themselves are made up of Wahhabis anyway, means the voice for the true Islam, the Sunni Islam, is marginalized and minimized. I do think it's a shame that, as far as I'm aware, the Malcolm X that people seem to always remember is Minister Malcolm of the Nation of Islam and not Sunni Malcolm al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. When I see summaries of the man on the TV and online, I usually see stuff about his radical ideology, but not the peace-preaching man he eventually became. This makes the autobiography essential reading, as it's the only place you get a real feel of the man, seeing how the insides of his brain worked and what shaped him into becoming what he would eventually become. This is a book for everyone. I can't think of a single person, whether a young black wannabe gangster, a middle-aged liberal Democrat or a Chinese billionaire, can't gain an extensive amount of knowledge on this account of a remarkably driven, intelligent and dynamic man, one who is undoubtedly one of the most important figures of the 20th century. It's an incredibly powerful piece and one that I genuinely think has the power to change your life. The truth that it hits you with, it's just incredible, and it goes without saying that unlike many autobiographies of celebrities looking to make some extra cash, this one is full of power and meaning. Interestingly, the once friend of Malcolm, Muhammad Ali, once a fierce defender and member of the Nation of Islam, would follow Malcolm's example and leave after discovering Sunni Islam, and come to regret the way he treated Malcolm X. Maybe his autobiography deserves a buy next. I give Malcolm X's a 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching.